Hello, my creeplings. I'm back again, and this one is a werewolf movie. I think I found one to actually talk about that is going to be fun. There's a lot going on with this one, and apparently there was a lot going on behind the scenes with this one, too. This is Cursed from 2005. This is the Christina Ricci werewolf movie that came out, directed by Wes Craven. Has Jesse Eisenberg. The names in this one, I'm just going to go down the list. Again, I have notes, so there's a lot to talk about with this one, especially all the behind the scenes shenanigans. So, we have Christina Ricci as our lead, Ellie. Jesse Eisenberg plays her brother, Jimmy. Josh Jackson from Dawson's Creek and all that stuff plays her boyfriend, Jake. Judy Greer plays Joni. Judy Greer, I'm sorry if this is kind of like not what you want to hear, but you play a bitch so well. Thank you for that. Finding a good bitch is just, keep it up. I know you probably don't want to be typecast, but that's a good one to typecast as. Milo Ventimiglia, I can never pronounce his last name right. He's done a lot of stuff. He's the bully, Bo. Portia de Rossi's in this one as a fortune teller. Shannon Elizabeth makes an appearance as one of our victims. So does the singer-actress Maya. Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. I didn't recognize him with hair. He's in this one. We also have cameos by Scott Baio, Craig Kilborn, Lance Bass, and Bowling for Soup. So this has got quite a bit of a cast list, but this does take place in LA, and Ellie does work as either a segment producer, line producer, or something. She works on the Craig Kilborn show, back when he was doing the Late Show. So it's expected there's going to be some celebrities involved in this because of her job, and that's where the Scott Baio bit comes in and other things. So we open in modern day, as in 2005, modern day LA. We have Ellie is visiting her boyfriend Jake, who is a club promoter, club entrepreneur. He's finishing up getting his newest club set up. It's called Tinsel. It's on the Strip, and it's just like a movie memorabilia nightclub. When you see the nightclub scenes, there's going to be a lot of look at that, look at that, look at that, and if I remember, I'll mention some of the more memorable bits to myself, other than the monster movie stuff. They have a sterling silver replica of the cane used in the Universal Monsters version of the Wolfman. I know there's a Jason Voorhees wax statue there, just for the horror stuff off the top of my head. Dracula, Frankenstein, the monster, not the man, but it's a lab set up with the monster there. A bunch of different stuff. There's a hall of mirrors or a maze of mirrors. There's, honestly, if I had a chance to party at this club, I probably would, just to, get pictures. But think Madame Tussauds meets nightclub. And it gives you an idea of what he's setting up here. They go home, and, okay, the pre-credits bit, I did gloss over. Two girls, Shannon Elizabeth and Maya, are at the Santa Monica Pier, I believe, and they go to get their palms read by a fortune teller named Zayla, who's played by Portia de Rossi. And she's no joke. She actually does have the gift. And she foresees blood and death and all that stuff. Well, we get to LA. She's at the club. Ellie's at the club visiting with her boyfriend. Her little brother she's supposed to pick him up somewhere on the Strip. He ends up with their dog, Zipper, who's just adorable as all hell, is with him. He wanders off leash into looks like a gift shop where this girl he knows from school is working. And apparently Zipper likes the girl. So they talk a little bit, and at the same time, this Bo character shows up and does the big bully thing, and you get this kind of setup where the brother's the geeky meeky guy. Classic Jesse Eisenberg character at that point in his career. So we go there. She picks him up. They're driving Mulholland Drive. Now, anybody who knows Mulholland Drive knows how dangerous this drive can be if you're not paying attention. Those of you who don't know, now I have never been there, but I am aware of, my dad had driven it a handful of times because he lived in California and they would go to LA occasionally as, a tourist thing. It's a very twisty, turny canyon road. So, one side, sheer drop-offs into the canyon below, the other side is mountains. And it's just curvy and swervy. So if you're not paying attention, or if an animal gets in front of you, there's a lot of wrecks on this road from what I understand. I'd love to see it sometime, but I have a feeling I'm never making it to the West Coast. That would be pretty cool though to go. So this all happens so fast. I hope I get this order right. They think they've run something over, or an animal has run across the road. They run into another car. Both cars go into the canyon. The driver of the other car is one of the girls from the fortune teller bit. It's Shannon Elizabeth's character. They are attacked by the animal. And here's where some of the really cool effects by Stan Winston's shop come in. Shannon Elizabeth's character is ripped in half, and you get to see her torso crawling for a minute. We'll get into the effects issues later. Nothing bad on Stan Winston's part. It's more like studio interference, which again, this video might be a bit longer because there's some drama behind the scenes with the studio on this one. So long and short of it is they go home, and they had all been attacked. She died, Shannon Elizabeth's character. Jimmy, Jesse Eisenberg's character, I'm gonna go back and forth and do that. I might call him Jesse instead of Jimmy. Just bear with me on this one. Starts doing some research into what happened to them, and he's pretty much convinced by the end of 24 hours that they have been infected by a werewolf. Shenanigans ensue with him at school. He takes the bully on eventually at the wrestling team tryouts and I don't want to say beats the snot out of him, but he definitely shows him up. Starts to get a little bit of I don't want to say a mean streak, but he calls him out on all the homophobe stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of, basically the kid got some chest hair. Ellie starts smelling blood and freaking out, and she's dealing with Judy Greer's character, who's a publicist for Scott Baio, and she is just the skinny ass bitch, I think would be the best way to describe her. So we get into all that. The other girl from the fortune teller situation ends up being attacked by a werewolf in the parking garage and dies. We go through all this stuff of her figuring out what's going on, him figuring out what's going on with himself. The dog bites him, bites Jimmy, and the dog ends up, I don't know how this works, but the dog ends up as a werewolf. Like super rabid like dog. It's kind of interesting because you would think they're so close in species. I don't know. I'm trying to think too much into a horror movie here. Comes down to it, you find out the common denominator between these two girls that died was her boyfriend, played by Joshua Jackson. What's his name? Jake. Jake is a werewolf, but he's not the werewolf that's killing people. Turns out, that's Joni. I keep having to look because I want to say Joni, Judy. A lot of these names overlap. Joni also was hooking up with Jake. Jake got around. And apparently lycanthropy is also an STD. Who knew? And she's trying to take out the competition. So big werewolf fight ensues in the club. They think they're free when the cops shoot Joni in the head. Turns out, no, they're not. They get back to the house. House is a mess from an issue with the dog. When the dog wolfed out. I still feel weird saying that. And come down, the whole point of it comes down to it is, since Jake's the start of the line, for them to go back to normal, Jake has to die. And he doesn't want to. He wants to have Ellie as his little werewolf girlfriend forever, and he wants to get rid of the brother because there can only be one alpha male. They do end up defeating Jake, and things start going back to normal. Jesse Eisenberg's character gets the girl, and long and the short of it is, this was an entertaining movie. Now, I got the unrated cut, which technically is an R rating. Here's where we start talking about studio intervention and all this stuff. This film was originally planned to be released in 2003. It took 2 years longer than expected because the Weinsteins kept changing shit. They wanted to cut it down to a PG-13 rating. Why? There's no point in it. It was not very well received at the box office. It was considered a bomb, probably because it didn't know where it was going. This movie went through, I think, 3 script changes in the time that from when they started the casting to when they finally finished filming, which is just unheard of. Now, Kevin Williamson, the guy who was involved with Scream and Dawson's Creek, he was the writer, one of the writers. First draft was written by him. They had screenwriters go in and do rewrites during the development. Wes Craven was given this when they couldn't make his other werewolf film. And they just kept changing things left and right. I know he originally started out with Skeet Ulrich as the boyfriend, and this was supposed to be a much gorier, heavier movie. I would have loved to have seen that cut. They got, like, the first version of the movie, like, mostly done, and then the Weinsteins apparently wanted it reshot. But I think they only used, like, 15 minutes of footage from that first movie. It was a hellhole from what I understand. Wes Craven was not proud of this film, which is sad because it's an entertaining, maybe it's not its best, but it's definitely one I've watched this a handful of times, mainly because I'm a big Christina Ricci fan. We're the same age. She was my Wednesday Addams growing up. I grew up watching her. We grew up kind of together, not like in the same space, but you know, the same time frame. Watching her grow up from a child star to a grown-up actress. I hesitate to say the term adult actress because y'all think triple X if I do. But watching her grow up and become the young woman and now the middle-aged woman, because we've hit that age. She is, and watch her craft grow was really nice. And I still like watching her do this cheesy popcorn shit too. Which this is exactly what this is. This is a cheesy popcorn movie to modernize the werewolf genre. It was pretty fun. Rick Baker originally did the effects for this, him and his shop. They were going for a practical effects thing, and they had, again, a good chunk of this done before they shut down filming the first time, and they wouldn't let him finish working on it. So when they went back, things were just kind of So the thing about the effects in this are, the practical effects are very, very good. Excuse me. But then they started to mix it with some CGI, which actually isn't bad. They probably could have pulled back on the CGI a little bit. But like the werewolf transformations, you use CGI. But they did use a guy in a suit. Derek Mears is well known within the effects community as, you know, the suit guy, the guy wearing the suit. And he was the werewolf in the suit. But some of like the physical change bits, we didn't go back to an American Werewolf. We went forward and did it with CGI. So it was done tastefully. Bowling for Soup opens up the movie with Hey There, Little Red Riding Hood, which is a cover of a song that was released by Wolfman Jack in the 70s. It's actually a really good cover if you like BFS. It's on their BFS Goes to the Movies album, which I love BFS. So that's kind of how I found out about this movie. I found that song first. And then I'm like, oh, this was in a, oh, wait, Christina Ricci werewolf movie? I think I remember seeing ads for that. And then I went back and watched it, and I'm like, this was actually pretty good. It wasn't bad. This is not my favorite Wes Craven film. This is not as serious in tone as, like, say, Nightmare on Elm Street. But it's not as... I hesitate to say goofy, but it's not as tongue-in-cheek as Shocker, for example. It's not as slick as Scream, but it feels like it's trying to be. It's an early 2000s horror movie. It's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's bad. I actually own a copy of it, and I'm going to, probably rewatch it every once in a while, especially if I'm doing, like, Modern Werewolf double feature nights, or discussing, Christina Ricci, or Stan Winston, or Wes Craven. I will continue to watch this movie, but it's not going to be the first one I recommend. I would give it a shot, though. I would really give it a shot. But yeah, this is one of those... I would love to see what the original movie was supposed to be like, because it sounded more interesting. I think it was supposed to be more brutal. You can find this information on Wikipedia if you really feel like looking it up, because it was quite a read between that and the critics' responses and things like that. But yeah, what we got wasn't bad, but what we could have gotten was better. And I've said this before, and I will say this again. Producers, movie companies, if you think you got to get in there and tweak it constantly, maybe that wasn't the project for you to back. I mean, I get if you've got a brand new first-time feature director and you kind of want to make sure that they're not going overboard because they can't manage their time, they can't manage their money very well because this is all so new for them. But when you have an established director like Wes Craven, you have a writer like Kevin Williamson who was coming up and knew his stuff. When you've got an effects house like Stan Winston, let them do their thing. If you feel like you've got to keep putting your hands in it, that is not the project for you. This is why, mega producers and stuff, I kind of like, how much are you in it for the money, How much are you in it just to make a quick buck? Because that isn't why you should be making movies. You should be making movies to entertain yourself and the masses and to tell a story. And making money, yes, while that is the big goal, maybe you shouldn't be doing it solely for making money. There needs to be more to it. But yeah, the cast list in this one was great. I'm not usually a huge Joshua Jackson fan just because he doesn't do stuff that I like. I enjoyed him in this. Again, I am a big Christina Ricci fan. I have loved her since I was, Wednesday Addams age. And she always does interesting stuff. Jesse Eisenberg, I am not usually a huge fan of, but he works in this this character. Granted, this kind of became his hallmark character. It's very similar, the meek, mild, kind of lovable loser, like, what is it, Columbus in Zombieland? Yeah, this was before he decided he could be Lex Luthor and kind of not work. Don't get me started on that. Portia de Rossi, she doesn't show up in much that I watch, but she was, pretty entertaining as this fortune teller who actually is like, oh my God, I see death and destruction and blood, and it was a bit part, but she worked it well. And again, Stan Winston is an effects wizard. He is a legend for a reason. And the practical effects on this show that. The werewolf designs are beautiful. it's interesting to see how different people interpret that point in a werewolf's transformation where you go from full human. Some of them go full wolf, and some stop at that super wolf, what I call the super wolf hybrid. I believe the role-playing game from World of Darkness called Werewolf the Apocalypse called it the Krynos form, which I have used as a term before discussing this kind of stuff with friends. When they do that Krynos form, it's very interesting to see how much of the humanity they leave or how much they take out. Because you gotta... Jesse Eisenberg's character said, I know it's a guy. It's still a person. What if he's pissed? So now you've got this pissed off super wolf human hybrid. I mean, we could go on for days talking about werewolves. Now, I have said before that I'm not a huge fan of the werewolf genre, and that's not necessarily true. I love the lore, and I love the idea, and I'm a big fan of the old Universal werewolf, the Wolfman, at least the first one. But like the modern day stuff, like American Werewolf, I thought it was going to be better. I have seen Ginger Snaps. We will talk about Ginger Snaps eventually, because Ginger Snaps was actually very, very good. The werewolf transformation scene in Trick or Treat 2007 was really good. But, like, most of the stuff, it just kind of ends up feeling cheesy. So I tend to stay away from it. I guess I'm more of a vampire girl, because I feel like I don't know. I feel like the stories are better. But if you guys have any suggestions for really good werewolf movies, other than Ginger Snaps or American Werewolf in London. Yes, by the way, I know there's the sequel to American Werewolf sucked. I saw bits and pieces of it on television. It was just not worth your time. But going back to Cursed, I do think this is worth your time if you go into it knowing it's going to be a bit of a cheese fest. This is not Wes Craven at his best, but it's probably not Wes Craven at his worst either. The cast did do their work. They did do their best, and it shows. There was money behind this, and that also shows. And of course, Stan Winston gave us some wonderful effects, which definitely show. So, decent storyline, solid performances, solid direction, for a troubled production. I would definitely say watch this one, but again, go into it with a bit, knowing that it's a bit of a little bit of a cheese fest. Kind of like a nice cheddar. I know, Mel's cheese scale. But it's pretty good. I definitely do plan on rewatching this eventually. So, Cursed from 2005 with Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg. Excuse me, I had a little frog in my throat there. I would say watch this. So, I think I'm going to possibly watch another movie and get back to you guys later with that one. But in the meantime, good night, my creeplings. And say it with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.